At 70, I've learned a lot about life. Welcome to Talk with John, your trusted space for real stories and smart advice for life after 60. I spent 3 months living in a nursing home. It wasn't just a visit, it was a real attempt to adjust, to see if I could make it work. At first, I told myself it was temporary, a trial. But even in that short time, I learned more than I ever expected. About myself, about aging, and about what truly matters in the final chapters of life. At the time, it felt like the right choice. My family encouraged it, promising I'd be well cared for and comfortable. I trusted them. But when I arrived, I realized the reality was far from what I imagined. Many of you might be considering this decision, either for yourself or someone you love. Maybe it seems like the safest option. Maybe you've been told it would make life easier. But before you take that step, I want to share 6 things I wish someone had told me before I moved in. Because life in a nursing home isn't just about convenience. It changes everything. And once you're in, leaving is far harder than you think. Stay with me to the end. 6 truths no one tells you. Moving into a nursing home might surprise you. If you know someone who's thinking about entering a nursing home, this may be exactly what they need to hear before making a life-changing decision. 1. Losing independence. The biggest shock wasn't the small room, the fixed meal times, or the unfamiliar faces. It was realizing I had lost control over my own life. Before I moved in, I had my routines. I decided when to wake up, when to eat, how to spend my day. I could take a walk anytime, cook for myself, or sit in my favorite chair with a good book. In the nursing home, time no longer belonged to me. Everything ran on someone else's schedule. Breakfast came whether I was hungry or not. Lights were out even if I wasn't ready to sleep. Want to go outside? You might need to ask for permission and wait for someone to assist. Simple decisions, what to eat or what to wear, started to feel like privileges, not basic rights. I remember my first week. I woke up in a bed that didn't feel like mine. I reached for the book I'd been reading at home and realized it was gone. So were the little comforts I'd collected over the years. Instead, I was surrounded by sterile walls, furniture I didn't choose, and the quiet pain of not owning my life anymore. The hardest part? Once you give up your independence, it's nearly impossible to get it back. You adapt because you must. You stop protesting when they tell you what's for dinner. You stop asking for walks. You learn to fit their system, and slowly you start losing yourself. Studies show that loss of autonomy is one of the strongest predictors of depression among elderly residents in long-term care facilities. Autonomy isn't just a nice idea, it's essential to mental well-being. If you're considering a nursing home, ask yourself, are you truly ready to surrender the little freedoms that define your life? Because once they're gone, you may miss them more than you ever thought you would. The 2, feeling forgotten. One of the hardest truths about moving into a nursing home is realizing that the world outside goes on without you. When I first arrived, my family promised regular visits, and they kept their word at first. My daughter came every week. My grandkids visited on weekends. For a while, I still felt connected to the life I knew. But over time, the visits faded. My daughter started calling instead. My grandkids got busy. Holidays became the worst. Everyone promised to visit, but plans always changed at the last minute. I found myself sitting in the common room, watching others stare at the door, hoping today was the day someone remembered them. It's not that our families stop loving us. Life simply gets in the way. And when you're no longer part of their daily lives, it's easy for them to assume you're okay, that you've adjusted, that you don't need as much attention. But the longer you stay in a nursing home, the easier it is for people to forget just how much you still need them. I remember one evening sitting with my phone, debating whether to call my son. I didn't want to be a burden. I didn't want to remind him I was still waiting for a visit that might never come. So I set the phone down and realized that this was now my life. Watching days pass, hoping someone remembers. Loneliness isn't just a feeling, it's a serious health risk. The CDC reports that social isolation increases the risk of dementia by nearly 50% in older adults. If you're thinking about a nursing home, ask yourself, are you prepared for the loneliness? Because even when your family loves you deeply, out of sight can quickly become out of mind. 3, losing a sense of purpose. When I moved into the nursing home, I thought I was just changing my address. I didn't realize I was also giving up my sense of purpose. At home, I had responsibilities, routines, hobbies, reasons to get up in the morning. Whether it was watering plants, brewing coffee, or tidying my space, these simple tasks gave me meaning. In the nursing home, those rituals disappeared. Meals were prepared for me. Cleaning was done by someone else. The plants, not mine to care for. At first, I thought it would be relaxing, no more chores, no more obligations. But after a few weeks, I felt something was missing. The days grew long and empty. I saw the same thing in others. There was a man named George, 84, a former carpenter. At home, he always had a project in his garage. Here there were no tools, no materials, nothing to build. I watched him shrink, not in body but in spirit. His once busy hands now sat idle in his lap. One day he said to me, "I feel useless." And I knew exactly what he meant. When there's nothing to care for, nothing to look forward to, life begins to lose its meaning. The mind slows, the body follows. You begin to feel like just another name on a list. Research from Harvard has shown that having a sense of purpose can significantly improve cognitive function and even reduce mortality risk in older adults. Purpose isn't a luxury, it's vital. So before you move in and ask yourself, what gives your life meaning? Because in a nursing home, finding purpose isn't just about passing time. It's about holding on to what makes you feel alive. 4. My health declined faster than expected. Before moving into the nursing home, I was doing pretty well for someone my age. No, I wasn't running marathons, but I could take care of myself. Cooking, walking, grocery shopping, stretching every morning to keep my legs strong. But when I moved in, things changed. I thought I was simply resting. Meals brought to my room, no cooking, no chores, just pressing a button if I needed anything. What I didn't realize was this: the less I did, the weaker I became. Within weeks, my legs started to stiffen. I sat more and moved less. Standing up from a chair began to feel like a major effort. The muscle tone I had kept over the years vanished faster than I ever imagined. And it wasn't just me. I saw others around me, people who walked in on their own, gradually shift to walkers, then to wheelchairs. People who were once independent now needed help with basic things they used to do with ease. Here's what researchers at Harvard have found. Muscle mass declines at a rate of 3 to 8% per decade after age 30, and the process speeds up after 60, especially with inactivity. And in places where convenience replaces movement, the body simply stops doing what it once did. I remember Alice, a lively 81-year-old who used to walk the courtyard every day when she first arrived. She was proud of her independence. But after a few months, I saw her walking less, then using a cane, and soon enough, a wheelchair. One day, she looked at me and said, "I don't know what happened, but I feel like I aged 10 years in just a few months." That's exactly how I felt too. In a place where everything is done for you, it's easy to forget that movement isn't just for convenience, it's for survival. When we stop using our bodies, we begin to lose them. If I had known how quickly my health would decline, I would have fought harder to stay active, even on days I didn't feel like it. So if you're considering a nursing home, ask yourself, will you still have the drive to stay strong when everything is set up to make life easier? Because once you start slowing down, getting back up is a lot harder than you think. 5. Losing my privacy and dignity. One thing I didn't think through enough before entering a nursing home was just how much privacy I'd lose. Back home, I could shut my bedroom door. I could sit quietly. I could bathe when I wanted and move through the day without asking anyone's permission. Here, that all changed. People come and go in your room even when you don't feel like company. They knock, but sometimes don't wait. Shared spaces mean you're rarely alone. Even basic things like getting dressed or using the restroom often require assistance. And while I know the staff are doing their best, it's not easy to accept help for things I used to do on my own. It's humbling, sometimes humiliating. I remember needing help with a shower during my first week. I stood there in silence while a young aide kindly offered support. She was respectful, but the loss of control, I can't explain how much it took from me. Even small choices, like what to eat, are limited. If you don't like what's on the menu that day, well, you deal with it. Then there's the matter of roommates. Not everyone gets a private room, and living with someone you didn't choose can be challenging. I was lucky. My roommate was kind and quiet, but others weren't. I knew residents who had roommates who were loud, forgetful, or disruptive. People who made restful sleep a distant dream. Dignity is a fragile thing. You don't always realize what it means until it's gone. According to a 2018 study in the Journal of Aging Studies, perceived loss of autonomy and privacy is one of the top contributors to depression in institutionalized older adults. If you're considering this life change, ask yourself, are you prepared to give up the space, choices, and dignity you've had your whole life? Because regaining that, once it's gone, is far from simple. 6. Leaving was harder than I thought. When I first moved in, I told myself it was just temporary. I'd give it a try. If I didn't like it, I could always go back home. What I didn't realize is that leaving a nursing home is not as easy as walking out the front door. At first, I thought no big deal, but my house had changed. It sat empty. Maintenance became complicated. My children, thinking they were helping, sold or donated things they assumed I no longer needed. They even began discussing renting it out. When I mentioned moving back home, their tone shifted. Are you sure, Mom? Can you really manage by yourself? Isn't it safer to stay where you are? And then there was my physical condition. Months of not cooking, cleaning, or walking much had taken a toll. I was weaker. I didn't feel confident in living alone, and that fear of falling, of failing, kept me frozen. I met others with the same story. They thought they'd just try it out, only to find themselves stuck. Some couldn't return because their homes had been sold. Others had drained their savings on care costs. The National Institute on Aging reports that once seniors enter long-term care, only a small percentage return to fully independent living, often due to financial or functional decline. That's the part no one tells you. Entering a nursing home feels like a reversible choice, but for many of us, it isn't. So before you sign the papers, ask yourself, are you ready for the very real possibility that this move is permanent? Because once you're in, the world outside can start to feel more like a memory than a reality. Finally, looking back, I don't regret growing old. What I regret is believing a nursing home was my only option. I came here hoping for comfort, safety, and ease. But what I found was a place that, little by little, took pieces of my independence, privacy, purpose, and identity. Does that mean all nursing homes are bad? No, some people genuinely need the level of care they provide. But if I had to do it over again, I would have fought harder to stay in my home. I would have explored in-home care, made adaptations, and ensured I truly needed this level of support before stepping into something that turned out to be nearly permanent. If you're facing this decision, I hope you take a moment to ask yourself, is this really the best choice for me? Or just the easiest right now? Because the life you have today, your habits, your freedoms, your choices, might be more precious than you realize. And once they're gone, getting them back may be the hardest thing of all. If you found it helpful, please like video and share it with someone you love. You might just help them enjoy a more fulfilling life too. Thank you for watching the Talk with John channel. I'm John. See you in the next episode.